Most people believe their memory is reliable. Not perfect, of course. We expect small mistakes, forgetting a name, misplacing keys, remembering the wrong date. But most of us assume that when we remember something clearly, it must be accurate. After all, memory feels convincing. It feels familiar. It feels detailed. And most importantly, it feels true. But psychologists have discovered something unsettling about memory. The brain does not store events like a camera recording. Instead, it reconstructs them every time we remember them. This means that sometimes what we remember with complete confidence never actually happened the way we think. The incident you are about to hear is simple, quiet, and entirely ordinary. But it reveals something deeply strange about how the human mind works. The event happened on a weekday afternoon. A university student named Daniel left his apartment to walk to a nearby cafe where he often studied. The route was familiar. He had taken the same path many times before. First, he crossed a small street, then walked past a convenience store, and finally turned left at a corner where a large tree stood near the sidewalk. Nothing about the walk felt unusual. He arrived at the cafe, ordered coffee, and sat near the window. For the next 2 hours, he read and worked quietly. Eventually, he packed his bag and walked back home. Again, nothing seemed different. The day felt completely normal. But later that evening, something strange happened. Daniel checked his phone and noticed a message from a friend. The message said, "Did you move that bicycle outside the store?" Daniel paused. He didn't remember touching any bicycle. Confused, he replied that he hadn't. But his friend insisted. Earlier that afternoon, she had passed the convenience store and saw Daniel moving a bicycle away from the store entrance. She was certain it was him. The description matched exactly. Same clothes, same backpack. Daniel dismissed it at first. Maybe she had mistaken someone else for him. But then something unexpected happened. As he thought about the walk earlier that day, a faint memory began to appear. He could suddenly picture the bicycle, a red frame, leaning against the wall, partially blocking the entrance. And in that moment, Daniel felt something unsettling. The memory felt real, yet he had no clear recollection of moving the bicycle. Had he done it automatically without thinking? Or was his mind creating a memory after hearing the story? Growing uncertainty. The more Daniel thought about it, the more convincing the memory became. He could imagine walking toward the store. He could imagine grabbing the handlebars. He could even imagine pushing the bicycle aside. But something felt wrong. If the memory was real, why couldn't he remember it earlier? Why did it only appear after someone suggested it? The next day, Daniel walked the same route again. This time he paid close attention. The store entrance looked exactly the same. And once again, a bicycle was parked nearby. But now the situation felt strangely familiar, almost as if he had seen it before. Yet he still couldn't determine whether the memory was genuine or constructed. What troubled him most was the certainty. Even though he wasn't sure what actually happened, the memory felt real. Why this feels like a mystery? Experiences like this feel mysterious because memory feels authoritative. When we remember something, we rarely question the memory itself. Instead, we question the world around it. But psychologists have repeatedly demonstrated that memory is surprisingly flexible. In controlled experiments, people can be convinced they experienced events that never occurred, not through deception or imagination, but through subtle suggestion. When the brain hears a story about something that seems plausible, It sometimes fills in the missing details. Over time, the reconstructed memory can feel almost identical to a genuine one. This process happens automatically, and most of the time, we never notice it. In the end, Daniel never discovered whether he had actually moved the bicycle. The event remained uncertain, but the experience changed how he thought about memory. What troubled him was not the possibility that he forgot something. It was the realization that his mind could create a convincing memory without his awareness. Psychology reminds us that perception, memory, and interpretation are deeply connected. The mind does not simply record reality, it interprets it, and sometimes the line between what happened and what we remember happening becomes surprisingly thin. Perhaps the strange part is not that memory can be wrong, but that we trust it so completely. The psychological explanation. Human memory works through reconstruction. Instead of storing exact recordings, the brain stores fragments of information, visual impressions, emotions, context, and meaning. When we recall an event, the brain combines these fragments into a coherent story. Usually, this reconstruction is accurate enough for everyday life, but it can also introduce errors. In Daniel's case, several psychological processes likely occurred. First, the suggestion from his friend created a possible scenario. Second, Daniel's brain searched for related fragments, his walk, the store, the bicycle. Third, these fragments were assembled into a memory-like experience. Because the details were familiar, the resulting memory felt believable. Importantly, this process does not require imagination or deception. It is simply how the brain organizes information. The goal of memory is not perfect accuracy. The goal is usefulness.